All right, so we are now live on Facebook. So this week it's Kuovonne and I. So thank you, Kuovonne, for showing up. This is Airtable Off the Record, Airtable Secrets and Lore. We're a group of Airtable users exploring new ways to use Airtable to optimize our businesses and lives. And we're open to hearing from anyone about your experience, good or bad, using Airtable to make a positive impact in the world. We attempt to promote people coming from any level to share your ideas or ask questions. And we also share our experiences, tips, and practices and offer ways to get help and get involved in the community. We meet every Wednesday from 7 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern. And to kick things off, typically we go through news, but this week it sounds like we're going to be a little bit more pointed. And we're going to go and dive into sorting linked records. I had to think of what it was called. Sorting linked records, and then also potentially some ways to automate checklists or like task template creation. So we'll start off with do you have any examples of this pre-made of sorting linked records? I know batch update is one.
Well, I actually have a script that I'm realizing I wrote that I just haven't had time to put for sale. So I'm trying to find it. Auto sort linked records by child value is the name of my script. Yeah.
So for the batch update, is that just like an option in batch update that's like pre-existing, or?
So batch update is, an app, and you can go through and I'm pretty sure you can sort. Let me see. Batch update. I'm pretty sure you can sort linked records with that. Did you want me to do a screen share, or do you want to?
I can share the screen on this one. So we'll just I've always wanted to learn how to do this, so this will be my first time doing it. So here we have tasks that have due dates.
And you can sort them. The main thing it does is it sorts by the primary field.
Oh, so the date has to be in the primary field?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's go batch update. So this is option. Oh shoot, this has to be in a paid one. Let me migrate this to a paid plan real quick.
Sort linked field. Record URL.
Right. We're adding batch update, and I just added the app because I thought I was sharing. So here we have, do you sort it like on the table of the linked record, or?
So you find the table that has the linked record field, and then you select the linked record field. So, sorry, I'm trying to do two things at the same time.
Let's say this is linked to sort links. Oh, and you can do ascending or descending.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing if you wanted to sort by how do I describe this? Like by any field other than the primary field, you could do that with scripting. Or is scripting the same way?
So if you want to sort linked record fields, you can do that with scripting. I mean, to my knowledge, the way to sort linked record fields is using batch update, or to do it manually, where you just click and drag and move things around, or with a script. I don't know of any other way of doing that other than those three methods.
Yeah.
But
so this is one of my clients would be like kicking me right now because they had to do a lot of manual reordering. I didn't even know this was a feature until now.
Yeah.
But if I do just hit update records, it will keep everything linked.
So it's all linked. It's just going to be sorted by that field, the primary field. I'm trying to think if I've got.
So if your primary field starts with a date and the date is first by month, then by day, then by year.
Yeah, so it'd be your month, day.
Or yeah. That would just be such an ugly primary field.
Yeah, or I mean, it doesn't have to be that for your primary field. It could be anything that's that's going to be sorted the right way.
All right, I guess what I'm talking, I want it to be sorted chronologically. So I'm thinking of this is very relevant for like event planners, like people who want to like link up a bunch of activities to an event and then throw a date on them, or like generate individualized activity itineraries, and they link event up to a person, but they might link the events in a random order to the person. They don't like, they might not go through the events chronologically. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to think where. Sorry, I'm trying to do my new script. And I thought I put it together and I'm like, did I? I don't remember. Let's see.
So in order to make it very chronological, it would have to be.
Oh, yay, it does work. Okay.
A good sign.
Okay.
What's happening?
Huh?
What just happened? What is this Airtable magic?
We're trying to
So I've got my script to work if, well, I mean, we can try demoing it if you want to.
let's demo it.
Okay. How brave do I feel?
And is it off of a date, or is it just ascending or descending?
You'll see.
And is it I have so many questions. Is it an automation script, or is it
It's not, well, it's an automation script here. Well, there's two versions of script. There's the automation script, and then there's the button script for initial sorting. But let's say, yeah, let's just try changing something like this to get things to run. So the idea is you've got some kind of parent record and you want to sort all of them in descending order by date, which is kind of what you have here. So if we look at these, apparently I wrote this probably back in what, April. And so it goes through in here, and say we want to add another one, and say we have here. So these are December 23rd, December 1st. And let's say I want to add another one, and let's put this, and we wanted to put it somewhere in between those two dates. So let's put that at the 10th. Now you'll see initially it goes at the end, because when you add a new linked record, it goes to the end. But I should have this automation script that is running, that is in progress. And when this is done being in progress and we go back, you'll see now the 10th is in the middle. It's sorted chronologically. The way this works, it's on an update record. This one has a script. It's got where you can say here your record URL, you say the name of the field that you want to sort on, and you say what the sort direction that you want on it. And I actually also need to update. Oh yeah, no, that's correct. So that's in general the way it works. And theoretically, this can work. Say we wanted to sort in like a different value, like say you had a number field. I like integers. And let's say instead of sorting on the date, we wanted to say instead we wanted to sort number, and we wanted to sort ascending.
So you don't have to update anything in the script to change that.
And then let's see. I have no idea what number should we put this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, how do they start off? We should probably put a lookup field here, right?
Yeah.
So now there are all kinds of weird orders, or they're, well, kind of a weird order. Let's see. How's my, did it work?
You might have to update, or I guess, yeah, you could just add a new linked record and it would trigger.
Let's try this. Let's try taking number 3 and let's change this to 30.
I think you have to update the date, don't you? Because it doesn't trigger off the number field.
Oh, you're right. Absolutely right. It's not triggering off of this. So we have to watch the number field. There we go. Okay. So now we can see that they're weird orders. Let's change this back to 3. And then we'll wait for the automation to run. Did it trigger? I don't think so. Well, it must have triggered, right? Because now they're in order for this one. No, it didn't trigger for this one because I didn't change any of these, but let's say I go ahead and, add a new one. Well, nope, adding a new one won't work because on the new one, I didn't change the fields on this. So I'd have to change this when a record is created, and actually this one shouldn't matter, but this would be number. And this would be, let's make that ascending. And then we have this one, and let's change it. So our number is 55. I have no idea why. Oh, and the order is not actually going to change on that one. It's going to be the end, but the rest of these should change so that these are now in order, in ascending order.
Show us how that script works.
Okay, so this is a script eventually I want to sell. So I'm not going to go through the full details of it, but the basics of it you can see is the script you don't have to edit yourself. You put in 3 input variables. So the name of the record URL, and it's going to use that to get the table that the record is in. Then you have the name of the field that you want to sort by, and then you have, do you want to sort ascending or descending?
Mm-hmm.
And then basically it goes through, it gets the table and the record from the URL. Then it goes and it says, okay, let's get all of the records in the table because we have to know what all the potential siblings are, what their values are. And when we do that, we're going to go ahead and we pick our fields. We don't actually need to have any of the field data on that because we're going to sort. We're going to have Airtable do the sorting for us, where we're specifying a sort in the query results, loop through all of the records, looking for all of the stuff. And then we do a little bit of stuff where we look at and we find out what are all of the linked record fields are there. And then we sort inside those linked record fields.
There was the most that it can handle 50 linked records.
The script?
I just see splice 50.
Well, you can only submit updates in batches of 50. So it'll just keep doing it in batches of 50 until it's done.
And what is the rest of this one? This reminds me of why I dislike coding, is because this would take me like 2 years to do.
Yeah. So so it's about 130 lines for this one. But the point of this one is not to, well, and how much of it is, so it's actually only about 100 lines of code because, the first 30, it's 130 lines total, and the first 30 lines are comments. But the thing is, I wrote this script so that you don't have to know anything about scripting, that you paste the darn thing in, you create a few input variables, and you type the names of your field, you select the URL, and you say if you want ascending, descending. You run the script and you don't have to know anything about code. You just have to trust me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is actually probably the fourth version of the script that I've written. The first couple versions I wrote were simpler. They were specifically for dates, and they just tried doing other stuff.
That one figures out whether it's a date or a number and like takes that into account all on its own.
So like one thing, if you want to do, if you want to do, when you're trying to do dates and you're trying to sort on dates, if you want to do a reverse sort on dates, a lot of times what happens is when you reverse sort on a date, you actually want to have, if there's no date, you want that to be at the top so that you'll see it. So to get around that, what I said is, okay, you need to have another formula field that says if you've got the original date, choose that. But if there is no date, then put in a fake date that's like super crazy into the future and then sort on that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not this, this is not what I would consider to be a beginner project in scripting, because you have to go through the different linked records to find out what are all of the linked records, and you have to get those values, and then you have to sort it. I mean, for an automation script, I wouldn't consider it to be a beginner project. If you wanted to do a beginner project where it was like you just sort from one parent record, that could actually be a beginner script.
Like sort based on the value of the primary field.
Well, if you can do sorting based on the value of the primary field, well, yeah, that's the super easiest way to do it. Did you want to try?
Sure.
Okay, I mean, the one thing with that is you might as well just use the batch update one for that, but
what if you want an automation?
So did you want to try writing it, or did you want me to walk through trying to do it?
I would love it if you walked us through it.
Okay, so, well, whenever I'm writing a new script, I always start it as a scripting app, even if eventually I want it to be an automation script. And then when you're starting a script, the first thing that you need to do is you have to get your names of all of your tables and fields. So I do this. So table equals base.get table parent. And then my linked record field, const.
What is const?
So when you're creating variables, you can use var, let, or const. So const means, well, var is what you used to be. It used to be only vars. And then they have let and const. Const is when it's not actually going to change. Well, your table is not going to change, so I like using const.
Okay.
So you know what your table is, and then you need to find out what your, and I can't spell, link field is. So you get that from the table. So we do table dot get field child. Okay, so now I know, and then we need to get what record you want to use. So it would be, well, okay, const record equals, this is an async call, input dot record async.
What is
any of the built-in ones that say async, you need to put await in front of it. It has to do with asynchronous JavaScript where they can have multiple things happening at the same time. Don't worry about that until you get more comfortable with it, and then you figure about like promises and stuff like that. Just know that whenever you're calling any of the things that say async in it, as far as the Airtable API goes, make sure you put await in front of it. Pick a record, and then we need to say the table. Okay, and let's do output dot record dot name. So if we can, whoops, no field matching. Child found in table parent.
Is the C?
What did I do wrong?
The C in child is like a different language. It has like a little thing on the bottom of it.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay, so it says, hey, I picked record test. Hey, that's the record here. This is other one. So this is how also like a lot of scripts start, is to say, okay, what are my tables? What are my fields? You can hard code these in the middle of your script here. I don't like doing that. I like doing it at the front, because if they change, they're all right up there at the front. Now you want to say, what are all of the, what's the value of this link record field? So link objects is record.get cell value, and the name of that field is my link field. And let's do inspect, so that you can take a look and see what that looks like. Let's pick that record. So we picked this record, and this is what the cell value looks like. We can see that we've got an array here of 6 different things, 0 through 5. That's 6 things here. And it has these different objects, which is, there's the ID, which is the internal record ID, and then the name. So now let's say, but we want this in a different order. We want it sorted by the name. So for example, so if we want to sort that by name, JavaScript has a sort function. So let's sorted link objects is going to be link objs.sort. And then, okay, this is where we need to sort them where, I forgot how we sort on, okay, this is where I go through and I go like, okay, it's been a while. So let's script sort array. And let's take a look at this.
This right here is everybody watching whenever they have to do anything with dates in Airtable. Like, let me just go Google search the date time format.
Yeah. Oh, I think I did would be comparing like sorting strings, sort array of objects by key. That's what we want. Here, let's take a look at this. Yeah, here's the first one. Yeah, here we go. Array sort. Let's copy this. Paste it in. So I've got my A, B. Let's see. And let's see. So if we have A.name compared to B.name, A.name, .name. Let's see. So now we supposedly have sorted it. Now let's see what our sorted list looks like. So the first one, all of our names, so it's the same order that it was in here. 2000. And then the second one probably should see unknown. Now, if we look at it when it was after it was sorted, let's see, we're going here. And then if we look at the end, our unknown one here is this, because alphanumerically, U sorts after 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got that. So now we have our sorted ones here. Now we need to write it back to the record. So let's do await table dot update record async. We're going to update the record. So I kind of hate this about, I can't see what I'm typing because it covers that up too soon. And so we have to say what record is, and then we have to give it a list of fields. And we've got a variable name for our field.
Has that always provided that help text in the way?
Sometimes it's in the way, sometimes it's not. I find it annoying when when it covers up exactly where I'm talking. So here, so if I didn't put like the names of my fields up here, a lot of times what you'll do is you'll put the name of the field here. But like I said, I don't like that, because then you have to dig through your entire script to find out where things are if you change your names. If you put them all at the front, you can get it like that. And then you have to put it in the square brackets when you're using a variable as your key here. So now this is out of order because unknown date isn't circulating, right? But let's try running this and cross my fingers and see if it happens. Oh, there it goes. So there now undate is sorted down here.
So what if you wanted to sort it the other way?
So then we would change our sort around here. Instead of this greater than, let's have it be, make this be a greater than, and let's change this to a less than. And now let's pick it and run it.
Cool.
So you could have something like this where you have like run an automation, and when like a new record is added where it watches this field where it says the value of your date field of this linked is changed because a new one's added, then run this script. But the problem with that is it's going to sort only on the primary field. It's a little bit more complicated if you want to do it on a different field. And well, actually, we can do this. Yeah, let's do this.
What are we doing on a different field or what?
Oh, no, we can't do it because, so the nice thing about this is just notice when we read the cell value,
Yeah.
we get the ID and we get the name. That's why it's really easy to go and sort based on the name.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to actually sort on one of the values of that child record, you have to go in and it's another layer of complexity because then you have to go in and get the child records and then find those values, which you don't get directly.
Gotcha.
But, and then just because, you know, I like it. The other thing that I tend to do is I will go in and I throw everything in a function. So I'll say mine is async function main, and I'll just throw everything, all this inside my main function. And then I will up here call it await main. So what that does is it's the beginning of breaking things down into functions, which makes things a little bit more organized. And then also we can do things like here, like, hey, it turns out it's complaining with these wavy red lines. It doesn't like it because a record could be null. Because if we go run and we say pick a record and then we don't actually pick a record, it's going to give us an error. And we don't like that. But when you have a function, you can do things like this. If not record, let's just return. That way it's just going to stop and we say, it'll just say it's done. Now, if I go and I pick a record and I don't actually pick a record, it just says, okay, you didn't want to do anything after all, bye. And notice all those wavy red underlines disappeared.
Yeah.
And this, we could actually probably change this and make this a little bit else if else there's got to be a better way of doing this one. But that's the basics where you define your tables and fields. You get the main record you want to work on. If you don't want to work on that one, just bail. Tell people what's going on. Get your cell value. Troubleshooting always, like eventually probably what happen is you delete this because when you're actually in a production environment, you really don't care what that looks like. But I always throw those in there when I first write in script because every now and then you're like, why isn't it working? You're like, oh, because that value that it's actually getting is not the value I thought it was.
So
then
where does that show up?
So if you actually pick a record, it's these two here. So this output inspect here on line 15 is the before sorting. And then this on line 27 is this one here of the after sorting.
Gotcha.
So we got our cell value. We just did output to take a look at it, because then we Googled to find out how to sort something. We outputted the after it was sorted, so we'd make sure it looked right. And then we went and we updated the record.
How long did it take you to write the 130 line one? It's like took you 4 iterations.
Yeah, well, I mean, so
And
it was about 4 different iterations, because like the first time was like, okay, well, let's go do it this way. And then I said, oh, well, you know, I also want it to work on, you know, a different way where I don't have to do this. And then I said, well, I want it to run it as an automation. Then I said, well, wait a minute. Why am I even limiting myself to working with dates? Why don't we just make it work so that it works with any field type that can be sorted on? And so, you know, each time it added a little bit more. And then I was like, okay, well, I want to make this clean enough that it'll work in any base where I don't have to touch the script at all. I just change the input variables. And so, I mean, I use the script myself a lot. It's actually, I think I use that in this interface one here, where we keep the, like we have in this here, this one here, I use that script of auto sorting to keep this one in check. So like we had a new interaction, and this was on the 4th of November. Let's put this on the 5th of December. And here, you can see here, originally it's down here, but then when we wait for the automation to run, it's eventually going to go pop up and show up at the beginning here. If I left that automation still running. I think I did.
This is really cool. How do you make the script work?
There it goes. See there, now it's at the top.
Okay. How does it work for any different field type? Like, is there a way that a script can detect the field type?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at this script that we're just looking at. So here we've got our link field here. Let's say we want to know what the field type that it is. So let's do output dot, well, let's see. Type equals field dot type. And let's do the field type of, and let's say field dot name is field type. Oh, this is where I say I can't spell. It's not field, it's link field is the name of it. And it's just type here. Yay, my squiggly lines on it. So type is a property of it, and name is a property of it. And then when I'm saying output, when I use the backticks here, that means that I can put the name of a variable in this syntax where it's $, open curly brace, then the name of the variable, close curly brace, and it will be replaced by the value of the variable. So field type of child is multiple record links. So that's how I see the field type of it.
So then you use that to like run an if statement to say if it's this field type, then sort it this way, if I had to guess.
Well, on the script for this automation script, this one here.
Yeah.
This one actually, it doesn't, it leverages Airtable sorting the records for me. So I don't actually have to sort them. It's really nice. That was one of the versions of rewriting the script that I did, and it made things a whole heck of a lot easier. Just having Airtable sort them rather than me sorting them.
Is that like using Airtable scripts, or like it sorts them in the base?
So if you look at the documentation, and if you're going to write code, you have to learn how to write documentation. We look here, if we go to table, and when we go to get records, I wish there was something at the, at the top. There's this select records async that you can use. You can, when you call this, see if there's an example down here. Here, like this. Your query, you're going to await select record table, select records async. And notice it has the word async in here. So that's why you put the await here. Okay. And here's an example where you can specify which fields you want to include. This is actually becoming required. When it first came out, you didn't have to do it, but you'll see when you try writing it without saying what the fields you want to get, you'll now get a little red cross mark saying that it's unhappy and it doesn't like it. But you can also specify a sort. You can say which field you want to sort by, and then if you want it to be ascending or descending.
Why is it? Because I've seen that come up on a few like forums that you have to specify which fields. Does Airtable just not want to like give you all the fields now, or like why is? Do you know? Why?
So what happens is when you're trying to get, originally they wanted to make it easy for people to start writing scripts. So they said, hey, if you don't say what fields you want, let's just give you everything. And that made writing scripts and learning how to use scripting a lot easier. Then they realized, okay, some of these, okay, we've got thousands upon thousands of records with hundreds of fields. And you don't actually need hundreds of fields. So they're putting all this load on their servers of trying to get all of these records with all of these fields, when really you only need, say, 2 or 3 fields a lot of the time. So let's says, okay, people have been using scripting enough. Let's make this more efficient. Let's force them to say what fields they actually want.
Makes sense.
But so what I see is like, if we had select records async, and if I do it without anything in here, you see you get that it doesn't like it. But what I have to do is I have to go in and say fields, and then
just
say which fields that I want.
Select records async, and it would give you everything.
Yeah, and it actually still works that way. Sorry, this needs to have an S, records plural. It will still work and it'll still give you everything if you don't have this, but it looks like this, where it's striking that and saying, no, I don't like that. It wants to know what fields you want. If you don't want any fields, you can specify none. If you're saying like, I'm going to be super lazy and I don't really care that I'm just grabbing way too much information, you can always just do table. And this will give you everything and it won't annoy you. You just name the table here and then all the fields.
But you have to try to do that.
But at least then you're realizing that you're saying, yep, I just want every single field in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So when will the automation script be available for people to purchase?
You mean this one?
Yeah, that one. And
yeah, it just, so the script's done. The script's been written for like months, but in order to actually purchase it, I have to go create a video explaining how to use it. And then I have to create the site and the description and all of that. So I don't know. As soon as I get around to that, I think I should try and stay up late and get no sleep tonight and do that.
Well, the sooner the better, because I just broke my GPS table because my paste object is now too big. So usually I import and sort by the date and then just take all of the linked records out and paste them back in.
Uh-huh.
But now my paste object's too big, so it doesn't want to link them all back.
So you're gonna use to do it?
I could do it like my problem is there's tens of thousands of records in the table. And so I could like scroll through and, do a few thousand at a time, but that would take.
You use batch update?
Well, with tens of thousands, you don't want an automation script to do that because you have all those automation runs that you're going to run through.
You could run it like, if it's 20,000.
Oh, but it's like multiple records. It's not that many parent records for lots of child records.
Okay. So this particular automation script works from the child record
Oh,
side, because if you change a child record's value, so for example, here, say I change, my 6 in the middle, and that's actually going to be a 14. Well, I want this to sort here. That's the way this particular one's. This is also due to the fact that, when you create a new record, it creates it blank with no value. It sounds like if you only have a few parent records, you might want to have a different script that goes from the parent side, kind of like what we started to write here, where it goes from the parent side, you pick that record, and then it goes through and it sorts it.
I think this one is nicer, maybe not for Rebecca's use case, but for the ones that I'm thinking of, because like for event planning, so you like move an event from the morning to the evening, you would want it to sort. Does it work with time too? Just out of curiosity, like the automation script, if I have times on there as well.
Okay, so let me go back and change the automation so that's going back to the date field.
Kuovonne's like, hold my beer.
So this is now a date time. Let's save this. Let's go to the automation here. And now we're going to sort by this. And did you want it descending?
Yeah.
Okay, updated that. This one here. Okay, and let's have something where
There's like four of the same.
let's group these by their parent. And then, so let's say we want this one is only, we're not at here, we're going to be at 10 a.m. And just because midnight is so hard to understand, let's put you at 9 a.m. So it should be, and then let's put you in the middle, right? Should be on the first at 9:30 a.m. Let's take a look what happened.
I think the date work. It's just,
Let's change this. Let's change this so that it just shows date time. Actually, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. Instead of date string, let's just do date time.
what is date string? I've never
Format.
string.
It's just a faster way of doing year, month, day.
Okay.
So let's do what, hour, minute, AM, PM. Month, day, year. Let's see if this works. Oh, yeah. Okay, so because this is GMT time, and this was the one, so it's 4. So it's from 4 to 3:30 to 3 o'clock, and then the unknown. So it's reversed by time now.
Sweet.
And if we change one of those and we said, so this is actually in this order now, right? And let's say, you know what, actually you're at 11. You're not in the middle anymore. Let's wait for the automation to run. That delay, I'm always like crossing my fingers. There we go. Now it's at the other.
I only have one other question. So what happens if, or does this work if you have more than one parent record linked to a child record?
If you have multiple parents. So
Yeah.
like you're saying, like, for example, if this one was linked to multiple ones here.
Yeah, so it'd be like a many to many.
And then let's say we also have those two. You know, I hadn't tried that. Well, let's see, what are we sorting by? Okay, this is just driving me nuts because let's change this to show GMT time so that they're the same, because otherwise it's just way too darn confusing. Okay, so which ones are the ones that are in common? Yeah, let's change this so this is not there. So the ones that are in common are here. So we have December 1st. There's a 10 a.m. and a 9 a.m. right? And now let's put another one in here that's going to have both of these, but let's put this at 9:30. And so it should now appear in the middle of those, right? Our 9:30 one.
Yeah.
So here's our 9:30 is in between 10 and 9 on December 1st. And here we have our 9:30 on December 1st between 10 and 9.
Wow. That's awesome.
And the way this particular script works is I decided I wanted to make things simple. Say you had multiple linked records, it actually sorts all of the linked records to all the other tables, not just which specific ones. There was a version of the script that I wrote where you had to say which was the linked record field that you wanted to use. I said, nah, that's too confusing. Let's just sort all of them. So there might be cases when you don't actually want to do that. But for the simplest version, I thought, let's just make it so it's always all linked records across all tables.
Okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around like what other linked record. So like say you had 2 linked records, but you were linked.
Yeah, like say like this one was linked to, some other table here.
Okay, yeah.
And, say this was linked to something. Well, then it would have to watch, like it's not triggering now because my automation isn't watching this particular field, but it would do that as well. The script has a couple other things, like it's smart enough to know that, hey, if the parent record has only one field in it, you don't need to change it so that it won't send an update for that. So it gets a little bit of speed from that if you have a lot that have only one child in it. But yeah, just it's an ongoing.
That's cool though. That's like between that and delete record, those are my 2 use cases for scripting. So
yeah, because a script is the only way you currently can delete a record with an automation.
Yeah. And I currently use your 4-line script from Airtable Community Forum. I've used it twice in the past week.
Wow.
It's the only script that I implement in client spaces.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, 4-liner.
So hopefully looking at this has made you a little bit less afraid of scripts. But what I think would be fun is walking through you and having you write this script.
Is that what this was, a scripting intervention for Ben?
No, this was like bringing back like nightmares from learning C# and learning HTML and CSS.
So I totally understand having nightmares. It wasn't a nightmare, but I was in high school. I was on the floor of my bedroom crying because I was trying to teach myself C from a book. And I don't even know if I had access to a computer on a regular basis then. Crying because I couldn't understand it. Decades I spent thinking I couldn't program, that I couldn't write code because of that experience. And then like, oh, well, I got really good at reading documentation, and now I can.
So it started from reading documentation.
Well, so it started from, I was a kid, I was in high school, I wanted to be able to write code, and I just didn't have the tools right then. I didn't have regular access where I could sit down to a computer whenever I wanted to sit down to a computer and ahead of time and just run it. So I had to try and I was trying to teach myself how to code without having access to a computer to actually test the code out. I had to try and think it through and hope it would work. And then in that small window of time when I had access to the computer, try type it out. I was a horrible speller, so I had all kinds of bugs. And it was just really, really frustrating. I was thinking, I can't do this. But I always was interested in it. I was always interested in code. And I ended up being a technical writer for a software company and never touched any of the code there. But it was just in that environment. I still thought code was neat. Learned how to write documentation, and through that process, learned how to read documentation. Scripting, actually, it wasn't scripting. Scripting hadn't even come out yet. And I was looking at the documentation for the REST API, and I thought, this is beautiful documentation. I have to use it. So that summer of 2019, I decided to teach myself JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and PHP all at the same time. I don't recommend that. The only reason why it worked was I had an incredibly supportive family. Oh, and I was also working in Visual Basic because I was working on creating a Microsoft Access application at the time. So total head spin, totally different syntaxes. Thought, wow, this is awesome. Had that little bit of JavaScript under my belt in the few months before scripting came out. Scripting app came out. I knew enough JavaScript to be extremely dangerous and took off from there. So that's my coding story.
Ferris Bueller, you're my hero.
So on the other hand, I also spent an hour and a half today trying to chase down a bug, which I found out was due to a very small typo where I had an S where I shouldn't have had an S. And it was actually ended up being an actual variable that was a different variable, but it just didn't have the S. And I'm like, well, that was a waste. If I'd just done what I tell my daughter all the time, which is console log everything, I would have found that so much faster.
I don't know how many formulas I've written one big chunk of and then just copy pasted it below and changed a couple of things. But I'm I just copy pasted. I know the first part worked. So you copy paste it again to kind of repeat the same functionality for a different circumstance. And then you run it and
it doesn't work.
And
it doesn't tell you why. And you're like,
no.
Okay, is it a comma? Is it a curly brace that should have been a parentheses?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what I think about. This is my soapbox. I think that there's all kinds of code, and you don't have to be typing letters to make it be code. But code has a grammar and all mechanical issues, which is things like grammar and spelling and syntax and all of that. That's the part of code that most people hate the most because it's super picky. It's kind of could you imagine if you were trying to write a paper for your English, and if you didn't have every word spelled correctly and every sentence punctuated correctly, that your teacher would just automatically fail your paper and not even read it? That's what a computer does. Is if you have one slightly misspelled word, if you have one comma out of place, your teacher just gives you an F on that assignment and doesn't even read your paper. That's what the computer does. It's horribly demoralizing. But the thing is, punctuation and spelling is not what makes the program actually really cool. That's just what makes it run. What makes it cool is understanding the business logic of what you want to actually do. And then saying, okay, now if we can just get the spelling right, get the grammar, get things punctuated correctly, then you can do really, really cool things. And that aspect of knowing what the business logic is, then you're doing that in spades already. You're just not writing it out in words and letters.
Yeah. my computer died, which is why I'm on this one now. So it's currently rebooting, which is why I had to jump off. But yeah, there's definitely use for it. I just don't think that I want to relearn how or put my clients through learning how or tying them to me.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, anyone who doesn't want to learn code, don't bother, because, you don't have to. But just because you don't want to learn how to code doesn't mean you shouldn't use code, because you already are. Every bit of software you're using code. You just have to decide how comfortable are you using code that was not written by a big corporation. How much do you trust the author of that code to have solid code? How much that you're not going to have to mess with, or that you won't have to go back and, tinker and adjust?
Or how creative can you get to not have to use scripts in Airtable?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was about to touch on, is like, you're definitely the automation expert already. So you can look at a script and kind of say, okay, well, what does this do? All right, well, all you have to do is this and this and this in automations. A lot of people cannot do that. They don't understand the logic. They don't understand how to take one from the other. A lot of people just see Greek when they open a script. They have no idea. So,
But then, when we have time, I want to show you these 5 different ways of duplicating tasks. 2 that take scripts, 1 that's a script for from a button, 1 that's a script that runs from an automation, and then the other 3 should look very, very familiar for you, because they're based on what you did.
There we go.
And then, there's cases for the different ones that don't involve scripts, but there's also trade-offs in how complex it is and how hard it is to manage the system. It's past 7 here, so I don't think we have time to go over it, but I can go over running them. But so the idea is, you've got a project and you've got tasks, and you want to duplicate them based on templates, and they're different ones. So all these different methods can be run automatically, except for the button script. They can all handle a different number of tasks for different projects, and they don't require any extra tables except for method 5. Method 1.
Well, I think this is like a whole nother topic.
You just do this? Yeah, you do that.
Whole show going through these different 5.
Yeah.
Because this is like a pretty highly requested feature, or not even feature, but it's just a highly requested use case that I see across a ton of different clients.
Yeah. So let's see,
populate the list of tasks.
Here, say I want to create the tasks here. So this is one way here. This one, let's say I've got a new project. Actually, you know what? Sorry, projects. And, oh no, sorry, I'm in the wrong table. Method 2, I've got a project here, and I've got a template with tasks. Let's see, then I wait for my automation. Sorry, I get excited about my scripts. So scripts are way faster than button scripts are way faster than automations.
Yeah, automations.
There.
I can see how you
Here they are.
They take a while now.
Method 3. How does method 3 work? Oh, method 3 here. I've got this project, my 3rd project, and let's do template F's project tasks. This is method 3. It takes 2 parts. There's these tasks. Method 4. Oh, is method 4? I don't know how method 4 works. Oh. So I have to have another project here. So then I've got a project for the afternoon. I've got templates, and let's say template H. Let's do project for the afternoon. We'll have that. And then project for the afternoon now has tasks, which it didn't a few seconds ago here, because I deleted those earlier. And then method 5. This is yours method. Oh, no, method 5 projects. Another project. And let's
I might have missed this, but are any of like the templates like written into the automation or like written into different automation steps? Like when I had first started trying to create I think I actually have a video of this, like to create a task template. It was just like the trigger was the project was chosen, and then task or action 1 is create record with action 1 written into it. Action 2 was create record with like task 2 written into it.
Yeah. So like here, so method 5 is exactly your method, where it just goes through and it says where it's here, where it's not empty. And then it runs each time for each task there it is. It just says, hey, duplicate myself. Give me the same name. So you have to know the names of all the fields that you want to copy over.
Yeah. I actually had a method before this that wasn't nearly as dynamic. You would just like basically write the task template into an automation with like, you could have up to 25 different tasks. Is that one of, I don't know.
Yeah, no, none of them uses that. Yeah, where you'd have to have, you'd have 25 create record ones. Yeah, no, none of these, all of these are just a single create record, and each task duplicates itself.
Yeah.
And that way you don't have to limit, you could have unlimited numbers of them. But yeah, so, this is the way my brain works. This is, let me find 5 different ways of doing this.
Speaking of your brain, does it just like do this all the time? Or are you just like laying in bed like, well, I can, add this portion, and if I put a roll-up field there.
Honestly, I have no idea how my brain works. And then I get really mad sometimes when it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, I say, okay, it doesn't matter what deadlines I have. My brain's not working. I'm going to go take a nap and have a sandwich or have a drink of water. Those 3 things. Sometimes I have to do all 3 of them.
Yeah, sometimes you have to do all 3 in like multiple times.
Yeah. Well, then I just stood up like this and I'm like, okay, well, I did this, but after doing it and looking at writing up all the pros and cons for all of them, I just said, you know what? I like the script method the best. It's the cleanest. I feel that it's the easiest to maintain, actually. But like this script. So, okay, this script is 80, but like a bunch of the script is just getting the script settings for the names of the fields. And then, so we figure out that we get the template. This is just validating, saying that it's actually a linked record field that you chose over here. And then we're getting the fields and the backlink fields. You get the original parent, you get the template record, you get the child templates, and then this is the bulk of the script here. So, I mean, the heart of the script is probably like 1/3 of the length of this entire script. It's just that I went in and I add a bunch of other stuff to, make it more robust and more foolproof if someone's using it and they do something weird, like instead of having it, they say, hey, let's have the project ID, and then they try and run it. Well, it says, hey, you've got the wrong thing here, rather than just giving them an ugly error.
Yeah. One nice thing about the script, I guess, if we're putting pros and cons out there, is you could just give this script to someone versus you'd have to completely build the automation.
Well, the other nice thing about this script is here, I just say my fields to duplicate. You add a new field to your task, it gets duplicated. You don't have to change this script, whereas otherwise you would have to change your automation.
Do the field names have to exactly match?
No, we don't even care what our field names are. We just go in and we say, let's see, where is it here? Duplicate values for all editable fields, and the backfield is going to be dealt with later. So what I do is I just take this child, let's go find all the fields, let's filter out all of the computed fields so that we only are left with editable fields, and all of our editable fields are fields to duplicate. Don't even need to know what names of any of them are. We just know that it's editable. And you're like, what if you want different values? Well, it's a template. If you don't want to have a value in that, don't put the value in the template. Now, there could be other things where you're like, okay, well, actually, we want default values, like we want the default value to be the current date. Well, then you'd actually have to hard code in, you know, that you have the specific date field that needs to be pre-populated with the current date.
Mhm.
But if you don't need that, if you just say, let's just get all the editable fields.
Yeah.
But yeah, like here, we've got 3 lines. All this is just telling people stuff. These 4 lines is just saying, well, what if they didn't actually click a record? These 4 lines is saying, like, you know, well, what if they actually didn't pick a template? So you don't really need these things. You can get rid of it. And like I said, if you just want a very stripped down version of it, if you're just trying to write something like this for the first time, it could probably be, like I said, 1/3 as long, and still work.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you for the medium advanced lesson in scripting today. Use with
okay.
caution, anybody watching, if you're not a script, if this is your first time scripting.
So it took me a long time to get to where I am. But you know, just start out by doing little scripts, doing 5-line scripts, 2-line scripts. And
Copy
just
Kuovonne's 4-line delete
don't-
record script from Airtable Community Forum.
I have a set of scripts that are like free. They're pay what you want off of my Gumroad store. You can just get them for free. A lot of people have, and some of them where I go through and I say, this is every single keyword, function, vocabulary word, and I link to somewhere on the internet where you can go find out more about it. And so it explains, I mean, how each bit of the script works.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
I think we're gonna end it here. I actually have a client meeting in 10 minutes.
Okay.
8:30 to 9 or 7:30 to 8:30 tonight.
Okay.
So I'm
Take
gonna
care.
jump on that, but thank you everybody for joining. It was amazing learning the different ways, including batch update. But I'm excited for that script to come out from Kuovonne, because that'll be one of 2 scripts that I use but do not write in Airtable.
Okay.
Let you select ones. All right, I'll see you all next week. Thank you for showing up.